What's good, folks? Welcome to another episode of the Cover One Film Room. I am one of your two hosts this evening, Anthony Prohaska, joined as always by Eric Turner, here to give you the hows and whys behind anything and everything pertaining to the Buffalo Bills. And in tonight's episode, Eric, pretty boring. It's been a slow news week for the Buffalo Bills. Nothing really eventful in any way, shape, or form. From a game perspective, from a news perspective.
Ho-hum, yeah.
Yeah, just regular, business as usual for us here in the film room. Ken Dorsey, no longer the offensive coordinator for the Buffalo Bills, which I said last night on Disguised Coverage that I feel like for some, but probably a lot of people, this was very much like the house falling on the Wicked Witch of the East and like Ding Dong, the Witch is Dead for so many people.
Yeah.
But that news has, shaken up the fan base for some, has been kind of a confirmation of priors for others. But regardless of how you slice it, Eric, it's a significant piece of news, and it matters significantly to this team considering they're 5-5. And if they want to make the playoffs, which is crazy that we're having that type of conversation, not talking about seeding, just if they want to make the playoffs, things need to turn around on that side of the ball. So we've got a lot of pieces to talk about tonight in terms of this coaching staff being shaken up, problems that, arose with the Ken Dorsey system and kind of what went awry there, assigning some blame to some Josh Allen pieces, talking about Joe Brady. So a very important episode for us tonight as we kind of, sit here with the Buffalo Bills in a state of flux on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah, we're going to get to the Broncos film, no doubt about it. But it's important for us to kind of turn that page. Normally we do this film room to kind of turn the page on the prior week, but it's time that we turn the page on Ken Dorsey's offense. And yes, Brady will be bringing some of that forward. Don't expect some major overhaul. It's just not possible, especially on a short week. But, we talked about in the offseason how, it's kind of phase 2 with Ken Dorsey, this offense, Josh Allen is his contract. And it's not gone all that well on the offensive side of the ball, especially when you talk about how healthy they are with most of the weapons that they have. So, we're going to talk about Ken Dorsey, the struggles. If you guys tune in every week, you're gonna realize some of the trends. You've heard these things before because we've been pointing out some of the pitfalls of the Dorsey offense, why his offense didn't always meet the eye test versus some of the analytics that all point to him and his offense being amazing. We're gonna show some more of that today, but also kind of give you a peek into the future and what Joe Brady can do, within reason this year. On this, it's kind of a tryout for him, and he's known as the Wonder Kid. We covered him when they brought him on board this offseason, yourself, Kendall, and I, this offseason, and he's a super smart guy. From all accounts today, you've heard in the presser that he's got that juice. So we're going to cover some of what we think that he could do within reason, and then we're going to do a little thought exercise when it comes to Ken Dorsey and Josh Allen. We're going to go through just about every interception of Josh Allen and kind of assign blame. And I think through this thought exercise, Anthony, that the fans are going to realize, why Ken Dorsey was let go and relieved of his offensive coordinator position, because it's the details. The devil's in the details. And we're going to point some of those out, even though it may have led to an interception by Josh Allen.
Absolutely. And before we jump into that, we got a super chat here from Justin. Appreciate you being here, Justin. And thank you very much for the super chat. I like what he's going with here. Hey, Joe, you're going to be OC this week. I fired Dorsey. Now go kick the ass of the best defense in the NFL. Go get him, laugh out loud.
Yeah, go get him, champ.
That's a funny, it's like a funny thing like that. Kind of, here you go, Joe, like baptism by fire, like on a short week going up against one of the best defenses, if not the best defense in the NFL. And that has especially had the Buffalo Bills number like this year, but even the past several, like making life difficult for Josh Allen and this offense. So it'll be a very, we're going to find out, again, it is a short week. There will be variables involved plus sample size, but we're going to kind of find out, what Joe Brady's mettle is in this week going up against a really strong unit in the Jets in a game that the Buffalo Bills absolutely need to win. But tying it back to that Ken Dorsey piece, Eric, there were, to finally put a bow on it. And I'm happy. Like I feel bad for Ken Dorsey, but to have it just kind of move on. I feel like when Tremaine Edmonds just signed with the Bears and I was like, oh, good. I'm just tired of having to talk about Tremaine Edmonds. Same thing with Dorsey now. Who knows? Maybe 4 weeks from now, we'll be tired of talking about Joe Brady or someone else or something. But it is important in this episode to kind of put a nice little neat and tidy bow on Ken Dorsey and his time with the Bills. And Eric, like you said, so many pieces that we're going to show tonight really are kind of like a summary of what we've done on this show going back to last year. Like a lot of the concepts, not to pat ourselves on the back or toot our own horns or whatever, but like a lot of the concepts that national pundits are talking about when it comes to the Bills have been diagnosed on this show for quite some time. And a multitude of those things kind of came to a head. But Eric, when it comes to Ken Dorsey's time, what for you really stuck out in terms of the problematic pieces from his time with the Buffalo Bills? We've talked about so many of them schematically, but you're like kind of going through your bullet point, bucketing everything in terms of the top things that kind of went sideways or wrong. What was it with Ken Dorsey for you?
Well, of course, it starts with the creativity. Like when you see some of these, big time offenses nowadays, a lot of pre-snap movement and a lot of creativity, getting your eyes going this way, going the other way with the ball. We didn't see much of that, and I'm sure there are reasons behind it, but we just don't know that. All we see is the film and what we hear, and we talk to some of the players, we get some of that feedback. But I think the reason they really let him go, aside from just the lack of creativity, is again, it's the details. Like when you see so many of these route concepts, like routes right on top of each other, like why is that happening so often?
Yeah,
you're gonna see some of that tonight in the film room. The mistakes, a lot of the national pundits were, taking that low hanging fruit about, well, it wasn't Ken Dorsey that, called the blitz on 3rd and long and fumble the ball or drop this pass leading to an interception. And yeah, you're right. But once again, it wasn't about the Broncos game. And when you have these type of consistent mistakes on that side of the ball, which again, where it's been a top tier offense for several years, has all of their players healthy, and again, 2nd year OC and guys that have been in this system, and they're consistently making mistakes. And you hear players publicly and privately talk about, oh, we want to play fast. It was great. It was a great game plan because we want to play fast. And things like that, you realize like, okay, something's missing. And then you hear Josh talk today, and he talked about what they plan on doing going forward. And you hear words like, we want to make sure everyone knows their assignment. We want to make sure that, we're playing confident. We want to make sure that we're tightening things down or locking things down. To me, that sounds like, a lot of the teaching that we thought we'd get from this offensive staff wasn't, for whatever reason, settling in with the players. And they, back to what we talked about the last couple of weeks, they weren't allowed to play fast, whether that's because of the option routes. And again, how that can really screw things up. That's what we can see on film, but I'm sure there are other things that have really escaped Ken Dorsey and some of those, the guys on the Bill staff, and it just trickles down. The flow chart begins with Dorsey and ends with Dorsey. And unfortunately, he was the guy that had to be relieved of the duties. I know Josh, you could tell physically and mentally he was exhausted from the losing, but on top of probably getting, having to get rid of a close friend, a guy that he was pretty much in the room with every single day the last, few years.
Yeah, and a guy that he was adamant about, staying on staff as the offensive coordinator. Like this is a guy he wanted to work with in Ken Dorsey. This was his choice, kind of that handpicked piece that he wanted in. And so there's got to be some sort of feeling of, damn, like I got this guy fired, which isn't, which is partially true to a degree, but like you said, like it unfortunately for Ken Dorsey starts at the top. And I think that's like the bigger piece. Like and we've broken it down so much on the show, Eric, like schematically and conceptually, like the issues that we've had with Ken Dorsey, but then we've also broken down like the poor execution pieces from the players on the field that aren't necessarily Ken Dorsey's fault in a vacuum. But as they continue to happen and you continue to see similar mistakes and similar execution problems, unfortunately, you have to kind of trace that back to the source point, which again is Ken Dorsey.
And the message he is sending. And I think that's also why in the presser today for McDermott, he talked about leadership and how it's, going from that positional coach to an OC or a DC position, your leadership is different. It has to be different. You're leading an entire offense or defense. And so I think that was a way for him to say, hey, Joe, you need to lead, first of all, but maybe he wasn't getting that. And the message from Dorsey wasn't coming down to the positional coaches and the players so much so that it would make a difference. So those mistakes weren't happening as frequently.
And it's funny too, like I think so much of football, especially from our vantage point perspective, it is X's and O's based and the bones and the structure of football and the schematics of it all. But when you're even just a position coach, but further, when you're a head coach and when you're a coordinator, you're really a people manager at the same time. And that's a significant part, like galvanizing your team or your side of the ball and making sure that message is succinct and
Right.
clear to your team. And that's a huge piece. And, maybe there was, some difficulty there for Ken Dorsey. But again, from our perspective, like it's really that X's and O's and on the field piece.
Mm-hmm.
And Eric, I like this comment here from Steve because it ties into our next piece a little bit. Steve says, from your previous show, it seems like 90% of Dorsey's offense was coverage beaters. That's all about players winning and hoping Josh reads it at the same time. And then he says, is this normal with other NFL teams? So to a degree, and Eric, I think it's a perfect like segue to our next piece with Ken Dorsey and talking about like the offense and how complex it is. Well, the conversation about how complex it is versus how simple and predictable. But you will see, some offenses run conceptually, but a lot of the top offenses today, there's more schemability to them in terms of getting players open. The phrases we use here all the time, like creating easy buttons for the quarterback or for offenses and so on and so forth. But this was a great comment from Steve, Eric, because it ties in right to this kind of next piece in terms of conceptually what Ken Dorsey's offense was like from a passing perspective, from a route perspective, and what was asked of the players within that. And then also tying it back to, a point we just made earlier in terms of being able to play fast or not so fast at times.
Yeah. And I mean, to an extent, yes, other offenses do similar things, but they're more direct about it. There's more purpose behind it. They're picking a specific situation where they know they're going to get cover two so they can run their cover two beater, as opposed to Dorsey coming out on the first and second plays, throwing half of the field a cover two beater just in case they see cover two. So it's more direct, it's more purposeful. So then you add in the creativity angle we talked about earlier and the lack thereof. So you have a little more eye candy, right? So it is, yes, to an extent, but it's dressed up a lot differently and it's more purposeful when they do run those. And I love this segue, Anthony, because in many ways, you even heard Josh talk about it the other day in the presser about, after the games last week, I think it was, I'm just trying to run the plays that are called. You could feel the pressure he had felt in that players only meeting. Like it was obvious. I think they were telling us, like they felt that something needed to change on offense. And they even said, no, it's the execution. They kind of went out on a limb for Dorsey. So we should have kind of known that maybe something was on the horizon. Now, we didn't expect them to lose to the Broncos and for it to happen. But I think it was inevitable. But when it comes back to the coverage stuff and the routes, it's so interesting. There's a great conversation on Twitter today about, hey, how come we always hear about these players, especially what wide receivers? Was it Tavon Austin you always bring up that said trying to learn the offense, the Bills offense, and how complex and difficult it is to learn it? How can guys come in and say how complex and difficult this offense is, but then you hear all these analysts, including ourselves, and all these defensive coordinators and all these players, say that it's a simple, predictable offense? It's a great conversation to have, and I think this is a great time to do it. Just a perfect time when you're talking about Ken Dorsey's offense versus the other offenses in the NFL.
Yeah, that's a really great kind of jump off point because I think people conflate the two or merge the two in terms of thinking, this offense is too simple and too predictable. Vanilla has been another like synonym or hot button verbiage topic that's been used to describe this offense. But really, Eric, when it comes down to that Dorsey piece on offense, it starts with what's initially asked of the pass catchers, whether it's tight end or wide receiver, sometimes running backs as well. And it's something we've talked about a bunch here, like the option aspect of this offense and it's one of the reasons we were so excited for Dalton Kincaid to be drafted because of his ability to process post snap and leverage space and understand coverages and recognizing, where he has to go and what his responsibility is. And then having it's somewhat innate ability to connect with Josh Allen and see the same thing at the same time, a la kind of what Cole Beasley did at times. But Eric, like we've talked about so much, and it is a significant point when it comes to Dorsey in this offense, it ties into this thing we just mentioned earlier, not being able to play fast. So much of this offense from a route standpoint and a design standpoint was, okay, on the snap, read the leverage of the defender. If he does this, you do this. If it's coverage this, you do this. If it's coverage that, you do that. And having to do that is a lot to ask of a player going out in the route distribution. But then also tying it back to the quarterback, like we've said, the quarterback has to see that at the same time in the same way that receiver sees that. And it just, when it works, like we've showed, it's indefensible because
Yeah.
you are reading and reacting to the defense. So when it works, the defense can't do anything because they're damned if they do, damned if they don't. But the issue is when you have to consistently execute at that high of a level over and over again with a multitude of players and a multitude of pieces, you present the opportunity to kind of get stuck in the mud at times because you have to play a bit slower because you're not just going out and, all right, cool, I have a 10-yard out. Let me,
Right.
do what I can to run this out. You have to read 2 or 3 things and also beat your man physically to get open. It's a lot to ask. And I think that's where the complexity piece starts. And then we can also tie it into how that can be predictable and what defenses can do knowing that the Bills operate in that way.
Right. With the concepts, most of the passing concepts, especially dating back to Dable, being in that, Earhart Perkins mold of the Patriots and, the system he came up through, but also old run and shoot concepts. You talked about Beasley. He brought a ton of run and
Mhm.
shoot concepts. Bills still run them. The Bills still run them. Those choice routes, which we'll see in the film room later, each route within a route concept has adjustments. It could have 5 to 7 different leverage adjustments in essentially a different route, 5 to 7 different
Yeah.
ways in one play call. So obviously that takes reps and memorization, whether you're in the book or on the field. And that takes a wide receiver and quarterback being on the same page, that rapport. And so you always hear Josh talk about body language and why that's so
Mm.
important. Well, that's why. So you hear a lot of these guys coming in and especially new to this offense, and they say, that's why it's so difficult to learn. That's just one aspect. Obviously, the volume is probably a whole nother
Oh,
aspect that
yeah.
we don't even know about. But what we can see, that route options, those leverage reads, obviously are a big part of this offense, and at times does slow them down. And a defense can just change the leverage of a defender, and again make you do something else, or maybe even funnel you into what they want you to do. And that's where the simple and predictable, discussion comes into effect, and something we've been talking about, something that is the hot button topic really when it comes
Mm.
to the Bills offense, because we've seen, and this is a good, going back to Steve's question about, other teams running it.
Mhm.
Yeah, other teams do it, but they present it differently. The Bills have such strong formational tendencies. You hear guys talk about, hey, 2 by 2, what do you think they're running? Like, I can show you if you guys come here every week, and for those that you don't, I could show the people that come here every week a screenshot of a 2 by 2 formation on a specific down and distance, and the defense in a single high or a 2 high look. And I'm sure if you guys have been with us the last few weeks, you could pick out what routes they're going to run. It's that simple. It's that predictable. And it's stuff that, again, we talked about. Here's your cover 3 beater. Here's your cover 2 beater.
Mhm.
Whatever they come in, then you attack that side of the field. Well, that was stuff they were giving Josh Allen like his first year and a half. They should have evolved beyond that.
Mhm.
All right. And so I think that's where the predictable and simple kind of cross the complex and tough to learn angle of this offense. And then finally, like I said, the defense can dictate things. You saw it with the Bengals, and that interception
Yep.
that we're going to go over. The defense can do certain things, just moving a defender around to bait the quarterback to throw it here. And we've seen that a few times this year, which again, we're going to talk about Allen's mistakes, but we're going to show you how some of what Dorsey was doing kind of handcuffed him and kind of cornered him into making some of those mistakes.
That dictation piece from the defense is such an ironic result because the whole point of like running such an option based offense is to be able to dictate to the defense. But then the Bills became so formationally and or alignment based from a predictability standpoint that those option routes kind of worked against them because defense could be like, well, if we do this, we know they're going to run this. Like how many times, like we know, okay, here comes the in from Stephon Diggs. Or my favorite one is always even just like okay, here's trips and they motion, they kind of run that motion to the running back to the trip side. It's going to be that draw or that keeper for Josh
Yeah.
Allen up the gut, which they ran this past week in that game. Last year against the Jets, ironically, they ran it like 4 times in a row and it was snuffed out each time. Not 4 times in a row, but like drives.
Yeah.
And the Jets had it snuffed out. And that's where I think that's such a great way to like put it because so much of the conversation, I think people are getting lost in the sauce a bit when it comes to this offense asks too much of people. And then on the other side, it's like, well, no, this offense is too simple and too vanilla. And it's a bit of both. Like it is complex. It is tough to learn and process. Again, that Tavon Austin piece is awesome. Guy who was well-traveled and he came in immediately and was like, this offense is the most challenging I've ever had to learn in my time, like in my playing career. And that is awesome on the one hand, but at the same time, led to some predictability, unfortunately, for this Buffalo Bills offense. Eric, now we shift the conversation to the blame game
Yeah, that's gonna
exercise.
be fun.
For Josh Allen's interceptions, like conceptually, kind of whose shoulders do they potentially fall on? We've broken down a lot of these in the film room this year because they've been significant portions of each game that we've broken down in terms of explaining the hows and the whys. But Eric, right now you got PFF pulled up for Josh Allen, showing his stats for this year and previous years going back to 2018. We've got some big time throws, some average depth of target, batted balls, all these pieces. What do you got going on here on this PFF?
Yeah, so as you said, this is the blame game, all right? So what we're going to do is we're going to look at all 11 interceptions. Most of them, some of them we're going to have to just blow by because it was, hey, this was a good play. But we're going to look at all 11 of them. But I want to give some credit to Dorsey because if you look at, yes, he has 11 interceptions at this point. Last year he had 17. Year before he had 15. 2020 he had 11. But if you look at some of the turnover-worthy plays, I know that's also a stat that everyone loves talking about when it comes to PFF. It's like some made-up stat. But again, use it as a reference, not as the word or gospel. So turnover-worthy play percentage, 2.4. So that's actually the lowest it's ever been. So again, credit to Dorsey. And as Steve talked about with these coverage beaters, that is one thing that it'll help you with. You know where the ball's going to go, but it's just a half-field read. And yes, the quarterback can kind of get cornered in many ways, but 2.4% there compared to 4.2 last year. So that's a very good improvement when you're talking, those turnover-worthy plays. And that 2.4% this year is the 7th lowest in the NFL. So yes, he may be up there in interceptions, but overall, he's not really putting the ball in harm's way as often as we have seen in prior years.
It's funny with that because of, where he is from a turnover perspective this year and where the Bills have been in a bad way in the turnover margin really since, I don't know, like week 5-ish, week 6-ish, somewhere in that range. But we've talked about it so much, like the hyper efficiency or ultra efficiency of Josh Allen and how he's been working and how this defense has been very like meticulous and matriculating the ball down the field. I think it makes the turnovers seem like they're happening more because when he does go for those shot plays or when he does make an interception, it stands out more because possessions are limited because they're keeping the ball longer and going on these longer drives. Every possession matters more, and we're not seeing those explosives potentially. So when he does throw these picks and when he does go down the field, it just stands out even more. And Eric, you had his adjusted completion percentage highlighted there, like 79.1. Like his completion percentage has been phenomenal this year. And again, part of that is because he's throwing underneath more. Like there is a more efficient aspect. Like, and look at his average depth of target. That's his low 8.6. That's the lowest.
Look at the drop percentage. Obviously, that affects the drop percentage as well. 4.7, lowest it's ever been. That's something that he dealt with a lot last year. Batted passes. He's only got 4 batted passes this year compared to 17. And even the pressure to sack percentage is pretty, relatively low compared to his career. So there are some benefits to what Dorsey was doing. And I do think compared to last year, especially when we're talking like, and the injury did play a factor in this of like how often they were targeting down the field. ADOT was 10.2 last year. That's crazy.
It was wild.
Yeah. And but it also, again, what they were doing to minimize some of those plays and minimize some of the variance to Josh's game, it hurt the big time throw percentage. It hurt some of those explosive plays down the field. As you can see, big time throw percentage is 5.4 this year, 7.6 last year. So again, that variance, I think them trying to control that and control Josh in many ways did hurt that. But, I wanted to show that side of the story because, not everything Dorsey did was bad. There was we could see it logically. We could see it logically in the numbers and on the film, and we break it down every week for you guys. But it's one of those things that like it was capping Josh Allen and the Bills offense, right? It was capping him. And I think that's why this year seems so much more drastic compared to prior years because we're so used to Josh being Josh motherfucking Allen, and we're not seeing that as often, right? And
we're used to seeing the interceptions and the problems, but we're also used to seeing the other side of the pendulum, those high variance plays that you talk about all the time, Eric. Like, and we're not seeing that as much. We're seeing ultra efficient, hyper efficient ball mixed in with turnovers and inefficiency, ironically.
Right. Okay. So let's get into the 11 interceptions from Josh Allen so far this year. And again, try to assign the blame. If you guys are watching live with us now, let us know who you think should be blamed for this, just to get an idea. Like, keep a tally. Like, how many times do you think it's Josh? How many times do you think it's Dorsey? And again, take into account the context that we're going to give you,
Yes.
in the film, in some of the little nuggets that we have from knowing this offense, watching this offense several times a week, and breaking it down every week. We show our work. Obviously, you guys know that. And I'll give you some of the nuggets and stuff that we know behind the scenes that kind of lead into those things. So let's jump right in. So this is the first game of the year. Down the field, big throw from Josh Allen. And he's trying to get it to Hardy, but okay, we'll stop it right here. This is a 3rd and 8 situation. And do you think that Josh could run this?
Yeah, we talked about it when we broke it down after this game. Like, he could run it. That's Tony Adams, the safety that you highlighted, who's coming down there around like the 45-yard line. Smallish guy. You would think that Allen could either shake him or potentially break a tackle, given how much green Adams has to cover. There's also the potential opportunity, if he wants to put it straight up the sideline there, to Dawson Knox, who's right at the near side numbers,
right there,
which is an opportunity. And then Eric, like you have highlighted there, like, that safety on the near side hashed Whitehead, like, he's already driving deep and he's cutting off that route that's being run. It's not an ideal throw. I understand the whole arm punt thing that makes people feel, less bad about it, but there were other easier options that could have generated the first or a chunk play or explosive
And that's
play.
the key. That's the key for a lot of these plays. Again, when you're talking about bad decision or even inexcusable, which Orlovsky kind of analyzed this year, today, about, hey, he's only had 3 since week 1, 3 inexcusable plays. Again, there's a huge gap between bad decision and inexcusable. So keep that context in mind. Like you said, Anthony, that decision, that question, okay, was this a bad decision? Was this inexcusable? Were there better options? If there are better options, I think one of them being a run here, or even Knox for that matter, I think this one is just a terrible play from Josh Allen, and I rest this one on Josh Allen. Arm punt and all, it's still a bad decision.
Absolutely. Like, I hate it from the perspective of, there are other options available, but it's not even like the other options available are like low percentage. The Knox throw is probably somewhat of a low percentage, but him not running the ball drives me nuts here. Like, I don't know how he doesn't just.
Yeah.
Tony Adams is probably going to get to him around the 35 or 36. Allen could probably just fall forward through him
easily.
For the first
man.
down.
We've seen it.
Yeah, we've seen it a bunch. And then as you have highlighted there for Knox, like, even though that throw is a bit down the field, he is significantly open by NFL standards. And there is nobody over the top with Whitehead driving to the post. So that's I would say a lot of people in the comments already saying Allen's at fault, and then this one from Jordan says Josh 1, Dorsey 0.
Yeah. All right, same game, and Josh was awful in this game. 3rd quarter, 4-16, 41-yard line. So they're in Jets territory. 2nd and 13 play here, and this another one I just don't get. I don't get this throw down the middle of the field to Diggs with 2 guys over the top. This one's pretty easy for me. This is another bad play from Josh Allen.
Yeah, this is a brutal one. I know when we first talked about it and looked at it, like, he's in the pocket and he gets that pressure bearing down on him. It felt a little bit like Quinnen Williams is rushing him right up the gut, and it kind of just felt like he was like, well, I'm going to chuck it up, YOLO, and kind of like see what happens. My biggest gripe with it is that it's on 2nd and 13 and you're at the 40. So even if you don't get the first down on this drive and you just get 5 or 6 yards on the next play, you're still in good field goal range and territory for Tyler Bass. And so situationally, it bothers me. And then, from a decision standpoint, there's no honoring of Sherfield coming on that post route. The safety just sits and hangs back on it and drives to the post from Diggs coming from the other side. Like, this route is never there. This is just a bad decision and a bad throw. I am in the same boat. This is on Allen, and it's disappointing.
Yeah. And okay, so I'm glad you mentioned that Sherfield route, and I highlighted the safety for a reason, because this is one of those plays that maybe a tweak in the scheme or a route by Dorsey would have held that safety. So if Sherfield, again, maybe this is on Sherfield, we don't know, but we don't know. If the route is deeper, if Sherfield pushes, and threatens his safety, then kind of heads to the middle field, maybe that safety holds. So there's a detail in there that is missing. All right. Again, whether that is on Sherfield or Dorsey, it starts and ends with Dorsey. And so that little detail could have made a hell of a difference on this play. much like the play when Diggs took this Dino post right here against the Packers. They held that backside safety last year and got that explosive. So again, that's one of those things that, maybe something the staff could have done, could have held that backside safety. And so that, again, could have changed the play and the result of the play. But either way, again, on the field, Josh has got to move on from that. He can't throw that if that back safety does not squat on that route.
And that's a big piece. Like if that back safety isn't nailing down, like there is exactly your point. Like there's something schematically to that potential to be like, okay, like is it design? Is it sure field cutting this route too short? Like that's a huge piece. But exactly your point. Like Allen has to see that and recognize that throw is not there. And then given where they were in the game from a score standpoint and game script standpoint, and then also 2nd and 13 there.
Yeah.
Like you had the opportunity. And then, you got Braden's comment there saying Allen's at fault. Like look at Cook for the short yardage, which is something, he said it. I retweeted your tweet earlier, you showing that piece. It's something that he said, like kind of not getting bored with taking that underneath stuff. It's there a bunch. And when he's been at his best, he's taken that stuff like he did against the Patriots in the late regular season in 2021. So if he can get back to that spot, it should also potentially limit these turnovers that we're seeing from him when he tries to press and make throws that he should not be.
Yeah, here's another throw that he should not have made. Another interception by what was it? Whitehead there, Jordan Whitehead?
Yeah. He had 3 in this friggin'. He has 4 on the year. 3 came in this game.
Oh God, he better not get one.
And his other one, his 4th came the past week against the Raiders, like this past Sunday night game. So it's not like
he jumped on that. Yeah, he jumped on that in breaking route. Right, I remember.
So it's
that.
not like he's some like interception maven. Like he just nailed Allen in this game.
So 3rd and 2 here. So 3rd and 2 situation. Keep that in mind. You got the smash concept to the top of the screen. Davis and Kincaid. Watch Kincaid. We talked about it when we broke it down. Take it. Just take it. You're right at the sticks. Take it if you want to take it right there. If not, then you got Diggs, right? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2. Here's 3. Diggs coming across the middle. So just go through your progressions. Instead, he forces it to Davis on the corner, and it's intercepted. And the context I want to add to this play is the smash concept, the corner route by Davis. Okay, so you see him bend the route right at the 50. And I think it was Kurt Warner. Some national analyst said, like, yeah, that's a terrible route from Gabe Davis.
It was Kurt Warner.
Yeah. If you go and watch the Bills run these smash concepts, a corner, a flat route.
Oh, I'm sorry. Troy Aikman said it on the broadcast.
Right. Yeah. They are the wide receivers are not taught, like in most systems, hey, on that corner route, get to 12 yards, hit the corner, break on 45 degrees. They're not told to do that. They're actually told to make this break on a 45-degree angle as soon as he passed the corner. The details. The devil are in the details, right? And so if a guy like Sauce right here is playing shallow because it's 3rd and 2, what's going to happen to the spacing of these 2 routes? It's going to be pretty easily guardable, right, Anthony?
Yeah, he covers both by just kind of sitting in that void and spacing both routes.
Yep. And so they're able to obviously fall off, have the safety make a play, but the spacing's bad. It's something we just continuously talk about because, again, it's something we can see. We can see these, every smash concept. We have the database, every smash concept they've run. We can see the spacing and what they're taught. And again, knowing some of the guys on the team, it's taught differently. And that to me is a big reason why you're seeing a lot of these spacing issues and why this was intercepted.
Yeah, the spacing and how it's taught is problematic, exactly like you broke down. But I think the point of at the end of the day, this still comes down to Allen. Like, and the biggest one for me is this is the 3rd interception of the game. This is also when the Jets have started to build some momentum. Like, you cannot have a turnover. Like, if anything, you need to kind of settle yourself. And I don't want to say play too conservatively, but you need to lean to that other side to be like, okay, this game's starting to kind of, the pendulum's starting to swing to the Jets a little bit. Let me settle down, like kind of play within myself a bit more. If anything, you should be playing more to the conservative side than you are taking that chance and that risk side. And Cole says, seriously, why is everything to the sideline?
Something we're going to talk about. Yeah. The something we're going to talk about.
This one, exactly like you said, though, like Kincaid is open right off the jump. It's 3rd and 2. Just hit it. You're already that side. Bang. Just put it to him. Lead him in front a little bit. It probably gets 3 at worst. Maybe he breaks a tackle from Sauce and he gets a little bit more, but who cares? You want the first down. That's it. And even if you don't like Kincaid, like you said, you've got Stephon Diggs coming as the number 3 in the progression there across the middle of the field.
Sure.
Dump it down to him. Maybe Mosley crashes down on him. Maybe Quincy Williams, comes down. They kind of put him into that alley, but he's still probably getting at least, I don't know, 4 or 5 yards, some piece like that. Like
take the underneath stuff.
That's it. Take the underneath stuff, even though it's boring.
Yes.
Again, so there are some schematic and design issues with this play, but this is still poor execution from Allen and where he went. And I think, Eric, that's such a big piece, right? There's so many things that have happened with this offense where there may be something less than ideal from a schematic or design standpoint, but that problem gets compounded by the decision making of Josh Allen, and that's been a huge piece with this offense this year.
Yeah, and we heard that comment from Cole about all the routes into the sideline. This sail concept, it's right up there with mesh for me,
which is super frustrating because they're very good at sail. Like that's a money concept for them.
I don't like the tweaks. I don't like the tweaks that they've done to it. And again, maybe this is a conversation for a different day, but I don't like the tweaks of the 45-degree breaks instead of, hey, you're running a deep out route, you're running a flat route, you're running a clear. Like there's too many corner breaking routes into the sideline. So again, that's a side nugget here because we're not even breaking down that play. But it's important because, that's not open to the top of the screen. So Josh has to take the arm punt to the bottom to Gabe Davis. Gabe Davis gets out muscle a little bit along the sideline, but I don't think he had a chance on this throw. But again, it's one of those plays that, the scheme, the concept by Dorsey, like, what are you doing? Again, keep in mind, it's third down. Ball was spotted here. This is a long play. There aren't plays in the playbook. And that's why Josh takes this. So this one I wouldn't really put on Josh. One, because again, it's the arm pump. But two, Dorsey didn't really give him many options, period.
No, the piece with that whole concept running into the boundary in and of itself, like even if your timing and your spacing is perfect, it's going to be somewhat problematic because you're going into the boundary there. And you've highlighted Diggs, you've highlighted Knox, and then Murray is open. Even Sherfield is coming open underneath.
Yeah, he's coming open.
But like you mentioned, like even if this isn't like a 3rd and 7 where if he hits it down to one of them, cool, they can get the first. Like they're not going to get the first down at the opponent 40. Even as amazing as Latavius Murray has been in the open field this year as a pass catcher, that's not going to happen. So I don't love like where Allen throws this ball, but I'm in a similar boat. Like I think the down and distance combined with the play call, I'm not putting this one on Josh Allen. Like there's nowhere really for him to go. There's not really a high probability of a first down if he checks it down. This is something that just didn't work out from a design standpoint, and the result is what it was, unfortunately.
Yeah, and this is a 3rd and 15 situation. So another 3rd and long against the Jags, and one of our favorite plays. Some people call it wave. This is double X post, Z cross from the top of the screen. But Josh tries hitting Diggs deep, and honestly, he has him. Not the best throw, but he's kind of in a tunnel there as far as the pocket goes. And I'm gonna chalk this one up to a freaking awesome play from the DB. It was right there. Yes, Josh could have placed it differently, but again, big throw down the field. And if you look at it from this angle, the pocket he was working with and having the maneuver right there, keep his eyes downfield, move the ball so it's not ripped away right there, then having to reset, regrip, reload, and then throw it as far as he did. And then the DB makes a play right here at high pointing it, climbing the ladder. To me, man, this is just a great play by the DB.
I struggle with this one because Diggs did have a step, and he does have to come back to this one on the throw. But like you said, there's all these other factors that lead to the interception, like the initial pressure from Jaguars Josh Allen that forces Bills Josh Allen to have to sidestep. He has to regrip the ball, like you said. It's 3rd and 15, so the other options that are going to potentially give the first down, like you've X'd out there, aren't open. The other options underneath at the Bills, 43-yard line, probably aren't getting the first down if he has to check it down there. So he takes the shot to Diggs, and again, Diggs is open. He's open. So I would love, part of me says this is on Allen because if he puts this ball out in front of him or more upfield, it should have been a completion. But this is a great recovery by Williams. But and then also too, like Diggs loses at the jump point at the ball, like at the catch position, which is also like, again, a credit to Williams. He wrestles that away from Stephon Diggs. I'm torn on this. I'm kind of like 50-50 because there's a bunch of factors that go against Allen here, but he still had him and could have put it out. I'm very torn on this one.
Yeah, that's fair. Again, that's fair because football is complicated. There are a lot of factors and variables in the play.
Such a good play by Williams,
And
man. Like
and
he tracks
honestly,
the whole
we've been calling for that too. We've been calling for those crossers and that deep, like double post. So again, you guys make your decisions, put them in the chat box, whether you're
This
watching now.
one, this is Jordan says so. So the last one was on Dorsey. So he's got
Other.
Josh
Okay,
3,
we can
Dorsey
add
1.
that.
This
We
one's
can add
other.
that
So other
category.
as well.
Yeah, that's fair. I like that. That's a good audible there. Good job, Jordan.
I like it. Good
Uh,
call.
th- this would I chalked this one up too, to a good play. This is Okerike's, he tips it over the middle of the field. They're trying to hit the ball down the seam and it's intercepted by McFadden. I think this was especially when you look back at this game and how the Bills ran this play earlier in the game. I think this is a really good read from Okereke as Dawson Knox slips in behind him. He senses that route very well. Josh is assuming that he's not going to be there. And he's throwing it on the line so that so that Dawson doesn't get lit up over the middle by the safety coming down the middle of the post there. So to me, I chalk this up to a good play from Okereke.
Yeah, and I know some people are probably going to say like if he layers this ball a little bit more, puts it up, like it's on Allen for the ball placement potentially. But I'm in an exact same boat. I don't have too much to add. Like this is one of those you tip your cap to the opponent, and Bobby Okereke, who had a phenomenal game in this one against
Career
the run in coverage. Yeah, he did. He absolute stud in this one. Sometimes, we say it all the time. The dudes on the other side, coaches, players, they're also good at football and they get paid to play football as well. And this is a dude who got paid as a free agent.
And he's got like 34-inch arms. Yeah. Like he's got really long arms, man. Like he's a guy we actually liked in the offseason. But yeah, I'd say we're in agreement there that's probably just a good play from Okereke. So to the Patriots game, here's that sail concept again. This time they see it versus cover 3, which is exactly the coverage you want for this concept. You get that clearing route. You want this DB to get out of there. Here's your flats defender. Here's that hook to curl defender right there. And so you want Josh to anticipate this a little bit, throw to his spot, let the tight end go get it. Instead, he stares him down, and allows this guy to sink underneath it for the interception. This, for me, is on Josh Allen. He got the coverage. Dorsey got him the coverage, with that double tight end set, under center, play action, everything we want. But Josh did not have good eye discipline here, and it led to the interception.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with you on this one. This one also made me think of like different situation and concept and spot on the field. But that first interception he threw in the low red zone against the Jets in New York last year, where he just did not see Whitehead. I think it was Whitehead again, like at all. This made me freaking Whitehead. It makes me think like, did he not see Peppers at all? Because the way he stares down this route, like the whole time, the way he stares it down almost made me think, or like how he wants it or what he's doing. Because where his eyes are now, he's almost like holding in the middle of the field, like trying to keep that over like the defender over the top from like driving on that piece, like almost as if he's like setting up the sail route the entire time, which made me think initially like, oh, he's going to come back and like hit Murray underneath because it's so wide open. And yeah, he just stares it down. I don't even think he sees Peppers or recognizes that he's there, especially too, because like he said, like the ball placement where he puts the ball, even if he is staring it down, if he leads Knox more and puts this ball more towards the sideline or towards like the 44, 45 yard line out in front, this can still be a completion. Exactly. Like if he leads him more upfield,
he's made that throw.
And he's done it different way, but he did it against Detroit to Dawson Knox on the same concept last year. Dolphins too, like last year, if he puts it more upfield, that's what makes me put it on Allen, like the staring down, but more importantly, like the ball placement. Like even if Peppers isn't there, this is still a shitty throw because Knox has to stop and come back to the ball. Like he would have literally had to stop and come back to the ball, catch it, and then get upfield.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, I think this one's on Joshy boy on that one. So let's see. We're going to the Tampa Bay game. All right, this one condensed formation under center. They're trying to run some play action here, and this one just batted down. Now, this one, I'm just gonna, maybe this is another because I want the play action under center bootleg type stuff. But this was a hell of a read right here by Winfield Jr. and he's a playmaker and he makes a play. But I wouldn't really put this on anyone. So this one to me is definitely not not really Josh or Dorsey on that one. So maybe the other column, right?
Yes,
That's where I
absolutely.
put that one.
This is another tip your cap. Antoine Winfield Jr. made a play. Also a person who is an unrestricted free agent this upcoming offseason will probably get paid
Duly
because he
noted.
is phenomenal. Yep, duly noted. We'll be making note of that depending on what happens with Hyde and Poyer. But
Yeah.
yeah, this is a come home, Antoine, come home. Like you're this is just a great play. Like he makes a great read, gets his hands up. Also, too, like I hate saying luck, but like that's really unfortunate that the ball basically bounces straight up into the air and goes right into a high traffic area for an interception. Like, so I'm not putting that on Allen or Dorsey. That's another.
All right, this one's interesting. I mean, we've broken it down. We've talked about this Gotti concept. It's the option route from the slot from Diggs, Davis running the go route, honey hole shot. We've talked about we want this in the offense, but you got to get the defense to work to underneath stuff, to respect this little option route, sometimes a stick route, sometimes a curl route. You have to hit that in volumes. That's what Josh Allen used to do with Cole Beasley from the slot all the time. Why? Because you want him to trap. You want him to trap. And so that guy doesn't respect Josh Allen that he's going to throw it to Diggs. Again, they're not committing to that. And so Josh wants to throw that honey hole shot. The DB sinks on it. And it's just, again, a bad throw. And from top to bottom, bad decision. Again, there are options, whether that be Diggs quickly on the break. There are options to the other side of the field. Like, there are many ways you can go with this one. That's why I put this one on Josh.
Agreed. Cam Taylor-Britt has a very, very, very tiny amount of potential hesitation, but he's basically sinking the entire time here. He widens Gabe Davis and then sinks underneath. I don't like the decision, but then even with the decision, if he just puts this upfield more like he has in the past, he could make this completion. We've seen him pull these ridiculous rabbits out of the hat.
Yes.
So he's got to put this ball, and we talked about it on the show last week, he's got to put this ball in a position where Dax Hill, that half-field safety over the top there at the 40-yard line, the person who has to make a play on this ball for Cincinnati has to be Dax Hill. So I don't love the decision from Allen. I don't love the ball placement and where he throws this ball to. But the thing that gets me even more is exactly your point. Like, you have Diggs, but say, you know what? You're thinking that Gabe Davis is going to come open on the sideline. He doesn't. So just go to your outlet, which is James Cook, who's wide open underneath. Like, even if you can't get to Kincaid in time, which I understand, you have the
He did it later in the game.
Yes, he did. So like that.
On the other side of the field.
I didn't want to drill down on him too much.
No,
but like it's 2nd and 10. You can come back and hit Kincaid, or you can just dump it down to Cook, who's got space. So there's a multitude of decision problems with me for this one on Josh Allen. And then the ball placement is a big one, even within that. So it's just like multiple black when it comes to this play.
Yeah, multiple layers of bad. So 3rd and 4th situation here, first quarter, 8:30 on the clock. This one from the Broncos game. This one's on Gabe Davis. This one is a throw over the middle. It's intercepted. Okay, so I was at the game and I was sitting at the 35-yard line. So I was right here, 2 rows up. So I had a great view of this play. And I'm watching the ball. Obviously, it's right in front of my face. And I'm watching Josh Allen throw it. And when he threw it, I was like, holy crap, why is he throwing that so hard? So that was my initial thought. Then I see on the back end that it gets intercepted. I don't know who dropped it or whatever, but then I see it's Gabe and I see it's a little high, but to me, that he's still got to catch that. But Josh also does not need to throw it with that type of velocity, Anthony, because it makes it that much more difficult to catch the ball. The window is huge. It's huge. And you can see Josh, he's kind of leaning this way a little bit. He's trying to get this guy to commit so that the route can like come in behind him. And his mechanics are awful. This is old Josh Allen mechanics right here. And again, maybe he's trying to move him. And really, in the end, it doesn't matter because he did still get the ball to the wide receiver. But I just would like to see him take a little bit off that. Go back to the Rams game a few years ago when the Rams came to Buffalo in week 2 or 3. And they were hitting these concepts perfectly in stride. Josh Allen, Gabe Davis. The touch was a lot better on this play, on those plays than it is here. But again, this should be caught. But this is not on Josh Allen for me.
Yeah, I recognize the mechanics, and we were talking about this one offline before we went live. Like, recognizing the mechanics with Allen and how hot this one gets onto Gabe Davis from him, especially with how wide that window is. Like, this wasn't a tight window throw where you got to put some zip on the ball to get it through there. Like, this is wide open by NFL standards. And even though it is a little hot, and a little off center. You got to come down with this if you're Gabe Davis. So again, this one is not, I guess this falls into the other bucket because
Yeah,
it's
I'll put
not
another
Allen and
one.
it's not Dorsey. And you just have the added unfortunate nature of, man, like the deflection going right to Justin Simmons. You could have gotten a field goal there, or maybe you go for it on 4th and 4 potentially down there. But yeah, not on Josh Allen, not on Ken Dorsey. That's another.
Johnny says, was the win much of a factor? No, not that night. Definitely not.
Mm.
Fun time. I got to go on the sideline and all that. That was a good time. This was another throw that I just didn't like. Second quarter, 45
Yeah.
seconds, right before half, 1st and 10. I know Josh wants to get something going. They're running a seam read. So again, it's not the best. They're not trying too hard with this concept.
Mm-hmm.
But in the end, the route by Hardy is quite shoddy. Not selling anything.
Oh
I
God,
don't
he
even think
rounds
he
it.
hits full speed, and then
No,
he
and
rounds it off and speed
so
cuts
much.
it.
He gains depth. He gains like 3 or 4 yards of depth from the cut. It's
Yeah.
so frustrating.
Yeah, and he's not, again, there's no pace to his route. There's no salesmanship that he's gonna go up the numbers and go deep. So that DB really never feels threatened. I mean, just look at the difference in route nuance between Hardy up top and Diggs to the bottom. And of course,
Mm.
Diggs is going against Surtain. So you
Yep.
gotta have your goods against him. But even just some of that nuance between those two. So in the end, though, Josh, what are you doing? Why are you throwing this? Again, you're trying to get it up and over this guy, and you're trying to get it out here, so that he can get out of bounds. But this is not open, and I don't know why you're throwing this. So for me, this one is on Josh. Like, you just can't throw this in this situation. And again, they had multiple turnovers by this point,
Mhm.
and you're putting your defense in a tough spot, which they did several times in this game.
Yeah, this one was this whole game was very unfortunate for the Bills defense with how much they came together and the plays that they were making. And yeah, I put this one on Allen. Like again, the concept is kind of just what it is. Like with the time remaining, like 40 something seconds left in the
Mhm.
first half, and you're just seeing kind of if you can get something. Like we talked about, I don't love the route from Hardy. The pacing isn't great. There's not a lot of deception or lying happening in the route. And then on top of it, like at the top of the route, he runs it like a speed out, which allows Moreau to just undercut it. Like Moreau is sitting there, they're in
Yeah.
quarters. You can't even, it was bugging me out the whole time. You can't even see the far side safety because he's so deep and off
Right.
screen. Like there's Simmons, and then the other safety is just driving back. They're playing super over the top here, and that's what Moreau is doing. And that's what drives me more nuts about this throw from
He broke
Allen.
he broke at the 37-yard line. Look where he hits when he starts flattening out the 41.
Yep.
I mean, yeah, you're right. He just rounded that off.
And the ball, the decision I don't like, and also I don't like the ball placement. Like even if this was a great route, like Josh throws this behind Hardy and a
Mhm.
bit inside significantly to the point that Moreau doesn't have to drive to the sideline and kind of make the catch and tap his feet. Like he drives underneath it and it's almost thrown right to him. I know the pressure kind of influences him a little bit, but it's also only a 3-man rush. Like he could have just sidestepped that first rusher
Yeah.
and not even thrown it. Like maybe if he, again, this is just complete, pie in the sky and assumption. Maybe if he sidesteps that first one, he sees Gabe Davis clearing in the middle of the field, who just got past Josie Jewell. Like there's a multitude of reasons for Allen not to throw this ball. And then the throw on top of it, the location and ball placement was bad. I know the route from Hardy sucks, but this one on me, same. This one is blah all around. I hate it from everything. And this one's on Allen.
Yeah. So again, that was kind of an exercise that I wanted to do to kind of show that, yeah, you know what? Dorsey is to blame for a lot of things. And hopefully we added some context to some of those plays where, hey, it was still Allen's bad decision, but he was kind of not funneled, but kind of directed and guided, right?
Shepherded.
Yeah, I like that. Shepherded to the bad decisions or, just inexcusable type throws. But that was, what do you guys think of that? That was pretty fun, right? That's
We got a
something
lot
that
of
we
got a
haven't
lot of
really.
engagement. Everybody in
Yeah,
the
that was
chat
like,
kind of giving their thoughts. I liked it. I really appreciate Jordan K for keeping a running tally in terms of if it was Josh, Dorsey, or other. Also, Jordan K, you came up with the other column and
yeah,
other
that was
tallies,
clutch.
so
We
appreciate
needed
that.
that.
Well done, well done. We should have had Jordan with one of us just in the back on a whiteboard, just doing like the official tally. Be like, oh, that's on Josh, okay, and just like marking it left by left. That was a good one. Games are always fun. People like interactive things. It's unfortunate that game was about
No.
failures for the Buffalo Bills. But
We
yeah,
made it fun though,
yeah,
right? So
fun.
like everyone's kind of down and wants to fire everyone. So we made it a little fun. We don't get to do that all that often,
Yeah,
especially if you're talking about the negative. So I thought that was a good spin.
yeah, I like it. I thought it was a good time.
So let's transition, right? Let's transition to Joe Brady. All right. We got through some of the Dorsey stuff, some of the Allen mistakes. We're gonna get to some of the Broncos film eventually here, hopefully, before covering one Buffalo. We got to get an hour left. But let's talk about Joe Brady. We obviously broke him down this offseason as they brought him and Aaron Cromer on. It was an awesome episode. Good time. Definitely go back and watch that afterwards. But what are you expecting? Realistically, what are you expecting this week and going forward the rest of the season?
You know, it's going forward, and even within the vacuum of this week, it's so tough because you're at the week 10 like break. Well, technically going into week 11. I know you have the bye week coming up. I think that bye week will be interesting in terms of like tweaking things further and seeing what they're going to be. But this week, and you alluded to it earlier, you're on a short week because you played on Monday Night Football. I don't know how many or how much of a difference you're going to see in this offense. And even if it was a regular week, it's still tough. Like the offense it is what it is at this point. You in week 10, week 11, you're not going to uninstall an offense and install a brand new one. Like that's not going to be the thing. The thing that I think you can realistically expect. Oh, and question there, from I at the moment saying no idea what to expect. What percentage of the playbook do we keep? That's exactly a very good and very fair question. I think the biggest things you'll see is maybe different sequencing, different go-to situationally, maybe some personnel tweaks in terms of like packages or usages, or I don't know, maybe Joe Brady thinks Deontay Hardy's amazing, so Deontay Hardy's on the field for 90% of snaps, like something like that. I think it'll be more player usage, personnel grouping tweaks that you may see here or there, but conceptually and schematically, it's almost impossible. Even if Brady thinks the Dorsey offense is terrible, he can't uninstall it and put the the triple option wishbone in this week. It's just not possible realistically.
No, you just don't have the time. You don't have the resources. And so you're right. It's going to be very limited. When you're talking concepts, we're going to see a lot of the same concepts, but he will address it. We assume he will address it differently. He will present it differently. Maybe instead of using the cell concept versus when he expects cover 3, maybe he uses a different concept, a different levels concept, a three level passing concept. So I think those are within reason. Going under center more to an extent, I think you can expect that a little more. Now, as far as a passing game from under center, aside from play action, not many offenses have a base playbook in under center passing games unless you are really majoring in it. The San Franciscos of the world, Kevin O'Connell and the Vikings, those guys, like the Shanahan McVay type tree, they will have that. Jared Goff with the Lions, like the Bills, they're not going to have that. They're not going to have a whole section of their playbook dedicated to under center straight drop back game. So they're going to have to still run some of the play action, but more importantly, get those run game. We did a whole episode on it. Like, yes, keep doing the play action, but run the ball from under center. We've been saying that for months.
Yeah.
And so I think that is realistic to expect. We brought up, I'm sure you did on Disguised Coverage last night, and I started pulling some numbers about like, what to expect from Joe Brady. And it's cool. Like, hey, when he was in Carolina, they ran 11 personnel 60.4% of the time. That was 17th overall. They did 12 personnel 17.5% of the time. That was 21st. 21 personnel, so 2 running backs, 1 tight end, 8.1% of the time. That was 10th. And then 22 personnel, they did 5.3%. That was 7th. Cool. Like, that's good to know. But that doesn't necessarily mean that's going to translate to the Bills system. So I want to talk just top down real quick. You may see, as you said, some different personnel. I don't know how they're going to present it, but they may tweak some personnel and maybe what guys they use in those personnels. But one thing that's always been a constant with him, whether he's at LSU with Joe Burrow and that freaking best college football team of all time, or in Carolina, was RPOs, something we broke down. RPOs, 5-man pass protection. So that means 5 guys out into a route. That's a big thing with him. And then targeting running backs, Anthony. And it's something that I think really could help this Bills offense and James freaking Cook. I think there's a chance that Cook could really be the top beneficiary of the Bills going to Joe Brady as the OC.
Yeah, Brady's part of the reason that Clyde Edwards-Helaire was a first-round pick and why
100%.
so many pundits thought, "Oh my God, him going to the Chiefs is just murder now for the rest of the league." Because there were tons. Brett Coleman was one that was kind of like, "How did the NFL let Clyde Edwards-Helaire go to the
Right.
Kansas City Chiefs just because of what Brady did for him in the pass game and his ability just to do little things like, get his running back into the boundary and like using his running back in space and create matchups where they have an advantage against a linebacker or against a coverage player that is just not suited to cover them. And it's been an aspect that we thought we'd see more of with James Cook, with him coming out of Georgia and just his ability. I mean, even in 2020, you and I were talking about this offline, like Mike Davis, backup running back for the Carolina Panthers. Christian McCaffrey was injured and on injured reserve in 2020. Mike Davis, backup running back, he had 59 catches that year. And as you can see from, some of these clips with McCaffrey and Davis, like these aren't,
Oof.
oh, hey, I'm checking this down. This is designed to go
Yeah.
to the running back. They're part of the natural progression. They are part of the route distribution and the passing concept. And it's really exciting, Eric, because James Cook has this skill set that
Yeah.
we really haven't seen tapped into
This one kills me.
other than on checkdowns, which is, oh, this one's so pretty.
Against Milano.
I know he
Texas
crosses
route.
him up
Right over the middle.
so hard. He angle routes him, so he routes him up. Again, what's exciting about this is, and you can see from a lot of these guys, like this isn't all, well, it's Christian McCaffrey. Like some is McCaffrey, some is Mike Davis, some is
Mhm.
Chuba Hubbard. Like there's just whoever the running back is, he's getting them involved naturally. That screen pass is nice
Mm.
in 2021. The Panthers had a 10% screen usage rate, which was, as I pull up my episode, seventh highest in the league that year. So he's adept at the screen game. You're seeing another one here. So he's good at getting the ball to running backs by design, not just being an outlet, not just being a check down. And Eric, that's a really significant option for this offense, given what James Cook can do in space and what he can do as a pass catcher.
Yeah, hands down, man. There's a reason, Brandon Bean drafted this guy and wanted to get this guy in the offense. And
Oh,
there are times like you're seeing some of these plays where, there were opportunities whether James Cook was underneath. You heard Josh Allen get told, "Hey, take the underneath stuff, take the check down more." And you guys have referenced it when we were going over some of those interceptions, like, hey, there's a lower option there. And sometimes that's James Cook, sometimes that's Latavius Murray. I think the Bills will make a commitment to that under Joe Brady. I think they will have him read low to high as opposed to high to low more, and kind of again reframe the process. I think that's um, where he can make the biggest difference is that thought process for Josh Allen of, hey, when you're going against this coverage with this concept, I need your eyes to be here, not giving Josh the, okay, well, if it's cover 3 here and go here with the ball, start your eyes over here, not giving him the keys to the car in that way. I think that's what Josh means when he says, locking things down, tightening things up. It's that process, whether it's pre to post snap of, hey, if we're running this, you have to be starting over here, not giving Josh the free reins to everything. Because I think, again, at times recently, especially the last few, 5 or 6 weeks, it's been too much at times, and there's a lot on his plate, as Von Miller said. So I think Joe Brady will help with that process, but I also think he'll help get these running backs involved because it's just something that he's always done, whether he's at LSU
mm-hmm.
or as you're seeing in this film, getting it to those guys, getting it to the guys that can get some yards after the catch, some run after the catch ability. And James Cook has that, and I think they can maximize that more.
Yeah, I really am excited to see what he does with the running backs and how he uses them to attack defenses vertically, but also horizontally, and be able to attack linebackers in space or by either putting running backs directly into the route distribution,
Mhm.
using them to kind of affect the spacing and either pull linebackers from the middle of the field or make them again have to like honor the routes that are coming out of the backfield. And does James Cook have an advantage? He probably does against a significant amount. So I'm very excited for that piece. And Eric, you got the graphic up there for running back involvement. So you've got on the left side, we've got the numbers for the Carolina Panthers running backs from 20 to 21. And then on the right side of the bar there, you've got the Bills numbers in the tenure with Dorsey. And there's a significant difference between the running back involvement under Joe Brady versus what we've seen with Ken Dorsey.
Yeah, and this is the passing game. So you see that attempt column that they were fifth when Joe Brady was in Carolina. Right now, the Bills are currently 19th. Completions, they were 4th to running backs overall in those 2 years or a year and a half or so. He was fired in like early December or something like that in
December 5th.
2021. Yep. Bills are currently 19th. Yards, I forgot to pull the current, but you can see they were 6th. So they're getting the ball. Of course, again, they had some McCaffrey, they had some Mike Davis. Davis actually was really good for them, quietly, really good.
I had him on my fantasy team in 2020, and he saved me.
Yeah, and so yards per attempt, they were middle of the pack, 5.8. Right now, Bills are 5.9. That's 11th overall. Touchdowns, they were 7th. They had 7 touchdowns, and then that was ranked 12th. Currently, the Bills have 5 to the running backs, 11th overall. But this right here, 10-yard completions, so 10 or more yard completions, they had 55 to running backs. That was ranked 8th overall. The Bills currently have 29. Again, over Dorsey's first year up to this point, they have 29, which is ranked 19th. And then explosive plays, over 20 yards, completions. The Panthers had 11, that was 8th. And then the Bills over that time with Dorsey had 7, that was 17th. So again, just kind of giving you a reference, and it's something that had carried over from, when he had Edwards-Helaire at LSU and that amazing offense, and how they got the ball to not only the receivers with a spread passing game and obviously an amazing quarterback, but also the running backs. And I agree, man. Like, they did help get Edwards-Helaire drafted pretty freaking early. And I bought in. I drank the Kool-Aid. I had him in there, early second round, late first round grade. And because of his diverse skill set. And so when he is taking the keys to this offense, he has to realize that James Cook is one of his top priorities and weapons in this offense.
Yeah, and I'm really interested to see, it's funny, we talked about the personnel packages and his ability to go with 12 and 21 and 22 personnel, so like more heavier pro personnel formations, but in his time with Carolina. But his time as the passing game coordinator and wide receivers coach at LSU was really marked by, spread concepts, empty formations, and getting the running backs purposefully involved as pass catchers, either out of the backfield or from an empty, or spread alignment. And both of those things, James Cook is very, very, very comfortable with what he did in his time at Georgia. And that's the RPO piece is a close second, given his propensity for that and the success we've seen Josh Allen have within that world. So I'm excited to see what he does from an RPO standpoint.
And empty too, right?
Yes.
Again, we talked about the 5-man protections, getting 5 guys out in a route. Kind of flashback to when Dable would do that to help jumpstart not just Josh Allen, but also the run game, getting 5 wide out there in empty sets. And, the ball's either out quick or check down, or Josh is taking off, and making him a threat again. Like, something needs to happen. Something needs to jumpstart this offense. And what better way than to have Josh Allen do it, and again, getting it to his running backs and some easy stuff underneath. He referenced it today. So
yeah, and kind of getting more on the front foot in terms of the attack-minded nature and leaning more into the skill set pieces. It's potentially very exciting what we could see. But James Cook, so whether you're a Bills fan or just a fantasy person, James Cook is somebody who could potentially see an uptick in terms of yardage, touches, and not just from a backfield carry perspective or a check down perspective, more by design out in the route distribution, which is very, very potentially exciting as the Bills kind of look for more weapons to help buttress Stephon Diggs and help out Josh Allen. Eric, now we come to, I don't want to say the sad portion of the episode, but the Denver Broncos film for this Buffalo Bills team. Again, a tough result, 24-22. We're not going to talk about how it ended or what happened towards the end, but we are going to break down some tape with regards to it because, even though it is still the Ken Dorsey piece, we still want to put a bow on it and wrap it up nice and neat. And it is still important to see where they've come in order to understand where they're going to be going.
Yeah, and before we kick this next segment off, we're going to get a couple words from our boys, Greg and Aaron from Cover One Buffalo.
Many people ask us the best way to support us here at Cover One, and that is to sign up to become a Cover One Pass member. That contribution helps give us the access to all the data and information we use to create the content that you love.
And I think most importantly, brings you into our community of insiders. It's a great community based on Slack. I know a lot of people don't want to be on social media anymore or be in on those conversations. We bring all of it to you right in our great community of educated fans. And most importantly, you get access to our content creators.
Even better than that, everybody loves merch. You get awesome t-shirts, a cool decal, and a letter from the Cover One team signed directly to you.
All for $60. That gets you the entire season, next year's free agency and draft. $60. Click the link in the description. Cover One Insider. Become one today.
All right, guys. Yeah, we couldn't do any of this stuff without you. I mean, just even being live right now, that's supported, and we're able to do that because of you guys, your support, whether that's a like, a comment, a share, or becoming an insider. Again, some of that stuff that we talk about, some of these nuggets you heard in there about this scheme, and comes from some of our sources, and some of that stuff is shared at times in our Slack channel. So get on board, support this small independent company that, really grinds for you guys. Like, a lot of these topics that, that we bring to you guys in the film room are kind of cultivated in our Slack channel, right? And and in game days, it's like being around family, whether the Bills are losing, and it's a great place, a great community, and probably one of the the most things I'm proud of when it comes to Cover One.
Yeah, I think that's a huge piece that, we talk about it every time when we talk about One Pass and being an insider, like that Slack channel to, an awesome comment here from Chill Will saying 60 for a year ain't bad at all. No, it's not, Chill Will. You are very spot on. That Slack channel is the really huge selling point. Like, to be able to have a group, and it's a significant amount of people that are in it, and to have the passion and the energy for this team, but without the toxicity that you get on social media, it's just a great space to talk football, talk Bills, talk fantasy football. There's a lot of different channels that, aside from just Bills stuff, like, it's a really great community that has kind of come together and been cultivated over the past several years.
Yeah, no doubt about it, man. All right, let's get to some of the game review now. This has been a fun episode. All right, guys, let's move on. So, top of the screen, sail concept. Bottom of the screen, coverage beater. Usually that too high beater, those two ins. I call it the 10 route, two in breaking routes. Josh misses an opportunity to make this throw on the sail concept, and it's nearly intercepted here in the first quarter. Not how you want to start a game. And I say Josh had an opportunity. So you get that clearing route right here. And then here comes Dalton Kincaid. And there's an opportunity right now for Josh to, again, throw it to that spot, like that Knox play, right, Anthony? You talked about it. Throw it to a spot. This defender is playing low. Just throw it up over the top. There's an opportunity for a play to Kincaid. He doesn't. He tries to escape in the pocket, then throwing it. And that linebacker was just waiting for him there. Singleton's waiting for him, number 49 underneath. He runs to the boundary, nearly intercepts it, but he's not able to get both feet in.
Well, I thought he got both feet down initially, and I thought it was a great play after I was yelling at my TV for Allen throwing this ball. I know Allen for the Broncos, number 99, gets upfield with that rip on Osiris Torrance, and so the timing is a bit off for Allen. Like, he starts to get flushed and starts to evade as Kincaid is coming open. But I would love for him to throw this ball with some anticipation and kind of lead him upfield more, because you can see it developing. And then that other flat defender is being held underneath. Like, this is there. The timing is unfortunate. Like, I recognize you got a huge 300-pound man, like, bearing down on you. Like, I understand.
You're going to stand in there.
Yeah. But exactly your point. Sometimes you kind of got to stand in there. And, Simmons is underneath on the underneath route coming in that sail concept. Like, that throw is there. And then just him throwing it now, I really like, this is nowhere close to being open as he starts to roll out. Right. So, like, him going to it after, like, I wish he hit it now. Like, there was plenty of space, but just eat it. Or as he rolls out, Simmons starts to sink further. So Justin Simmons, the safety, number 31, who's at the 30-yard line right now, he starts to sink as Allen rolls out, because he understands that tendency. Allen goes for that shot once he starts to roll out. Allen could have still fired it to Murray underneath and gotten like 3, 4, maybe 5 yards if Murray falls forward in a perfect world. So really unfortunate kind of, pressure that got Allen off of it, but he still could have made that throw and also could have made a better decision as he rolls out.
All right. And so on to the next play here. This is the it's pretty cool. They make it look like that wave concept that we talked about earlier, that double post. So they're going to run posts here by these guys and make it look like Diggs is going to run the over route or that crossing route, and then he kind of whips it back to the boundary. But watch Davis. He gets to that post, the top of the post, and then just sits. Really nice concept versus this defense, especially when you're talking 3rd and 16. Again, this is attacking that area of the field. This is 3rd and long. We saw a couple times on those interceptions. They didn't quite have a good play call. This is actually really nice. Again, they're making it look like the double post and then that deep crossing route. But you have Davis sit, balls on him, big time throw from the 10-yard line to Gabe Davis for an 18-yard gain.
These are the type of plays that work, like these 3rd and longs where you think, all right, they're done, and they pull them out. Like for a brief moment, I was like, oh, they're back. Like, this is nice. Like, look at what we got going on. This is, you highlighted right there, beautiful pocket and protection. Like Allen is able to sit back and survey and be comfortable and step up and make the throw. Good read by Allen, good ball. But for me, like you highlighted, like Gabe Davis is the highlight of this one. The way he runs his corner off by getting to the top of that route and selling the post, boom, he's like, he gets to when he hits the 30-yard line, you can see it. He puts his head down. He goes from like 75% to 90%. Like he changes his pace. And then as he hits that post, bang, he just gears down and snaps it off. And look at all that separation in space. Like that's a real quality route from Gabe Davis, who uses, is normally known as that like vertical guy or that guy who pulls coverage, that stretch piece. I think he uses it to his advantage here. He runs the corner right off him and is just there on that deep sit. It's a really great route from Gabe Davis.
Yeah, and to wrap this play up, Chill Will asked, was Diggs just a decoy? Yeah, he was kind of that decoy to get the attention of the safety, Justin Simmons. But more importantly, Sherfield kind of also takes the top off there. You see Simmons kind of looking to him and robbing him. So, again, just a really nice play for Dorsey and the Bills offense. When you're considering the situation, 3rd and 16, you get 18 yards on that play. So 3rd and 4 here. This is the interception, isn't it? So we don't need to break that one down.
Yeah, I mean, we can if we want to just torture everybody.
So let's go to the second quarter. 12-10 left in the quarter, 2nd and 4 situation. This is a negative gain on this play. Play action. You got Gilliam in there. A play that, we've seen them complete to Kincaid over the middle, man. I don't know why Josh doesn't pull this trigger. Look at Kincaid. We've seen this. Raiders, Dolphins game. Like, we've seen this. Like, throw it. And he just blows right by him because he probably sees these guys. He blows right by him, then ends up checking it down, and a defensive lineman is there to stop Latavius Murray for a 1-yard loss. It just, Josh, pull the trigger underneath the Kincaid. There's no reason for you to not throw this. Look at that. Like, again, you don't even have to anticipate this one. He's breaking. Now you can throw it. Like, there's no excuse for not throwing this over the middle.
Yeah, I shout out to DJ Jones, number 93 for the Broncos, for making that play in space. There's part of me that wants to devil's advocate it and be like, maybe Alex Singleton, number 49, if Allen throws it to Kincaid or stares him down, he keeps driving. Yeah, maybe he keeps driving underneath and makes a play on the ball. But I don't even think Allen sees that piece. Like, and I don't even know if that's what gets him off it. And even if it does, I still think he can make that throw. And like you said, Eric, like this is something they hit going back to the preseason. Yeah. Like, this is not a staple, but this is a concept that they run, and it works.
They built this for Kincaid. This is literally built for him. He is the primary read every single time on this play. And there's no reason not to throw this.
And honestly, like, the success rate on it is, I don't know, if they run it like 7 times, it's like 7 out of 7. Like, Kincaid is always open on it, and this could have been completed here. And even when he looks off it, like, Singleton settles down and starts to move left. He could have come back to Kincaid. I know that's not like the easiest thing, but there's like and Kincaid even like works back to him a little bit too, which is also like what gets me. Yeah, I don't know why this ball didn't come out. Like, it's could have been a nice little chunk play and an easy first down conversion. Instead, you kind of get a nice momentum piece if you're the Broncos, because your big interior defensive lineman made a play in space.
Yeah, and then we move on to the very next play. So 3rd and 5 here. Second quarter, 11:26. The very next play. What do you guys see to the top of the screen, right? 2 in routes, that 10 route. You got the cover 2 high safety beater. To the bottom, they got the trip set, and it's one they used to run a bunch with Beasley, and this little juke route right here, and then the slot fade. And the running back usually just kind of hangs out there. I remember a lot of people criticizing this play under Dable because Motor would just stand there and put his hands up. But again, look at how this unfolds and tell me that the defense doesn't know what's coming. So prior to the snap, I have both the safeties covered and circled there. It's a too high look. Where do you think Josh wants to look? To the too high beater. Yeah, I'm going to look to the top of the screen. You have those two in-breaking routes, but they shift out of it. And you see Simmons, he still hangs like he's playing that cover 2 look, but then you get this guy over the middle. All right, so you can tell they know what's coming. Now, let's look to the bottom of the screen before we get to the actual throw. look at Surtain on Diggs. Do you think he knows where Diggs wants to go and kind of, go back out this way? Like, look at him shut that route down. You're not going anywhere. There's nowhere to go here. So Josh he stays to the top of the screen, and he has Kincaid. Now he's got to get it up and over this defender right here, right? He's got to get it up and over him. He's kind of hanging underneath area, probably more of that like rat defender where if Josh takes off, he can, go get Josh. So he's got to get it up and over him, and he gets it through. But then Kincaid never drops passes. He drops it. So again, this is one of those things like, okay, scheme-wise, I didn't like it. It was predictable. The Broncos picked up on this, and they knew where Josh was going to go with it. They drop a guy underneath, and they drop that safety down into the hole. And, this is he's open, but it's a tight window, and he's got to fit it through there. And again, you see the pump right there. You see Josh having to throw it in a secondary window over here, and he does, which is great. Josh is playing above the scheme in many ways and extending the play from but then now you have Kincaid going into traffic, probably worried about getting lit up, and he drops the ball.
Yeah, this one was frustrating, especially at a time where, like, after they had already thrown the intercept. So you have the fumble on the first drive, and then the interception from the Gabe Davis drop, and then this drive ends because of the drop here. Like, just an unfortunate, frustrating moment. I really don't like that. The Bengals did it a bunch, like, and I don't know if Denver, this is a core piece for them, or they're starting to use it because it's what they saw on tape, but like teams using these 3-man rushes with that low hole player or like that aggressive spy type against Allen, like it just seems to frustrate the route concepts, and like they flood the underneath area and lock down, and whether it's just, hey, tremendous coverage, or it's because the predictability piece and they knew what was going on. Like, but you see, like you highlighted, Eric, like you see those Denver players driving into those areas and locking down in areas that kind of make them think like, okay, here it comes. And even within that, this still could have been a first down. Like this still should have been a catch, even with all of it. Like that's again, what's so unfortunate with everything that's been going on. Like nobody is helping out like anyone else at these times. Like Dorsey in the design and the play isn't great, but then the players aren't like making a play at the same time. And there's just this round and round chicken egg scenario of like a cat chasing its tail of being snake bit and just things just not working out for the offense.
All right. And then so now we fast forward second quarter, 450, 1st and 10 situation. There's a 14-yard gain. Great. But is it because of scheme or is it because of the heavy lifting by the personnel? And as you see this route unfold by Diggs and get 14 yards on the very same route that they just ran earlier in the game. They run this again. We've broken it down. They run this like eight times a game. So now you do have essentially 2 safeties deep, but I mean, look at this DB. Do you think he knows that Diggs is running an in-breaking route based on what they're showing? Absolutely. But Diggs still wins. He wins across the face. You have a nice throw and breaks a tackle, which is even better, and gets the first down. So this is the heavy lifting, as we've talked about in the past, by the personnel on the field, making a play, good throw, good catch, good run after catch ability. But from Diggs, they get a first down.
We've seen so many of these from Stephon Diggs this year where he keeps like, he's so determined after the catch and he like uses his momentum to break tackles and like slingshot himself forward. And another example of that here, it's really, like you said, like it's a real credit to Stephon Diggs. Like you have an outside corner, you're into the boundary and the outside corner is playing inside leverage, taking away the inside route or inside routes, and Diggs sets him up and still gets inside. Like this isn't as easy as Stephon Diggs makes it look. And not only does he clear him, like he creates decent separation against the guy who is like that corner. Moreau is trying to take away that slant. He's trying to take away that inside piece. You see him turn immediately and he's trying to force Diggs outside, and Diggs doesn't care just because of, the leverage. It doesn't matter to him and he makes a play. Just really beautiful from Stephon Diggs.
Yeah. And speaking of beautiful, this is our easy loan auto sales, making it look easy. Play the game. Big time touchdown, and kudos to Ken Dorsey for this play. Call, design. He had it working on this play. 22-yard touchdown from Kincaid, bottom of the screen. Great pacing and patience by Kincaid on this route. So let's break this down. So the 3-man route concept to the bottom here versus this cover 3 look is a seam route by Diggs right up the seam, and then you get like an out and up right here, and just a running back to the flats by Cook. And so in this cover 3 look, generally you're having Surtain, the cover 3, that deep third player. When you get 2 verticals, you're supposed to split the difference of these two guys. But he didn't see that Kincaid made that route become a vertical. So he squeezes Diggs down the seam. Not a bad play. You see depth from the linebacker here, but more importantly, Josh, eye manipulation. Look at him looking to the left, coming back, little pump, looks down the seam, gets those guys to commit, but then finds that out and up to Kincaid. This was gorgeous. This is one of the better scheme plays against a coverage that you could tell they expected to get.
Yeah. Beautiful design, beautiful timing in the play call, and then the execution from Kincaid, Diggs to pull the defenders. And then Allen, like the way Allen gets to this throw, you can tell that he wanted it or like knew it was going to be there the whole time. Like he's literally just like, I'm dropping back, looking left. Okay, let me look to the middle. Bang. It's not like his body language. It's not like he turns and sees Kincaid and then is like, oh, let me pull the trigger. He's open. He knows it's going to be there. This is such a tremendous design. It is such a good execution. That end zone angle is beautiful.
It's gorgeous, man.
And dude, and how many times this goes back to, the Brian Dable years. It feels like when Allen gives those pumps and that little shoulder shimmy,
zoning,
he just,
man.
he is in the zone. He fires lasers out of it. We've even talked about on the show that like sometimes those shoulder shimmies or those pump fakes almost like make him more comfortable and make him get into like a rhythm a little bit, because the way he would just be from an accuracy standpoint, decision-making standpoint off of it. And then even the throw there, like he's got some space, but he doesn't lead Kincaid too far. He just layers it simply right over Simmons to a wide open Kincaid. And I love your point on like how it manipulated Surtain, because from his vantage point, Kincaid's running it out here. So he's like, all right, cool. Let me carry with Diggs.
His eyes already inside.
Exactly. He sees Kincaid run that out. He knows Justin Simmons is his flat defender. Cool. Simmons has that. Let me carry Diggs. And then nope. Psych. Like there's enough underneath to potentially hold Simmons so he can't completely sink. And even if Simmons bails and carries Kincaid, then James Cook is wide open underneath and it can get dumped down. So it's great manipulation and deception from Josh Allen with his eyes and his body language. It's a great design from Ken Dorsey and the timing of the play call, and then execution and pacing by Dalton Kincaid as well. And that is why that play is our easy loan auto sales, making it look easy play of the game. And easy loan auto sales, regardless of your credit situation, Easy Loan can help you get behind the wheel and on the road to better credit. All of their vehicles include a 2-year, 24,000-mile warranty, and they have 3 convenient locations in Buffalo, Lockport, and Niagara Falls. They can get you driving today. Go to easyloanauto.com to start your accelerated approval, and we also have their information in our episode show notes, whether here on YouTube or whichever podcasting app or platform you're listening to this show on.
Yeah, that was just a pretty play from top to bottom. Again, Dorsey's not in Buffalo anymore, but kudos to that play. And this might be the first time that we have the Easy Loan auto sales play of the game back to back on a touchdown to 2-point conversion ever when it comes to the real estate rewind. So Jonathan Miller sponsors this next segment. We call it our real estate rewind because you have to rewind it a few times to see how good of a play it was. And the design was gorgeous. It was so good. So you get on this 2-point conversion, from the 1-yard line, you get the motion from Davis across the formation. But then watch where he kind of pulls up just inside Kincaid, but then the ball snapping, he's outside. So what they're trying to do is confuse these guys on, the pattern matching of this play, because you got a tight end and a wide receiver. And so he started inside, kind of throttled down, but then gets outside, and on the snap, they switch release. Okay, now you got to have these two guys processing, and even the safeties kind of thrown into this as well, processing how to run this 3-over-2. This guy's locked down on Diggs. And just watch, you'll see the pivot right here from Kincaid and then back to the middle. But then you get vertical and then that backline throw again, like we saw last week for the 2-point conversion. I think it was the Diggs, right? Last week. This time it's the Davis for the big play. I just love this design. And going back to Davis on that double post, curl or stop, look at him sell over the middle. Look at him peek back right there like he's going to look. They ran this play against the Steelers. I think it was a year or two ago. You see him look inside. It kind of freezes this guy, especially freezes the safety. Then he gets to the outside, snaps it off. Nice high point throw for the 2-point conversion.
I love this route when they run it. We've seen Stephon Diggs do it, in a different way, but he ran this similarly against Jonathan Jones of the Patriots, one of the Joneses, for a touchdown. Dawson Knox ran a similar route. Bill's going from, right. That's what I was thinking. Right to left on the screen in the red zone. I love this route. Like, get upfield, sell inside with your body language, with your eyes, and then snap it off.
And that little peek inside, just watch the
Yes.
movement and action of the
Yes.
safety and how it freezes him. Right there.
Look at him.
Oh,
Because he's close. Like, even when this throw is made, it's good ball placement by Allen to put it more out in front of Gabe Davis. But that safety is close. The reason he doesn't make that play is because he has that hesitation right there. He breaks down between the two L's in Bills in the logo because of how Gabe Davis runs this route. He sees his body language, sees that he's open, Gabe Davis being open to him. So he starts to break down and think, oh, okay, like, is he posting up? Is he coming across the middle? This angle's a good one too. You watch 32, he goes screaming, oh crap, and then has to get on his giddy up. And by that time, it's already done. That's a good concept, good design. It works a bunch for this team. Again, as we called out, like a bunch of the successful plays that they've had with different players. Nice to see Gabe Davis running this piece and another crafty route from him, and with good deception and good pacing, similar to what we saw him work on that deep sit earlier. And again, like you mentioned, Eric, this is our Real Estate Rewind play of the game, sponsored by real estate agent Jonathan Miller of Metro Roberts Realty. Jonathan uses cutting-edge technology to help you sell your home faster. Professional photographs, 3D virtual tour, drone photos, and videos are all included with each listing at no extra charge. He loves working with buyers and sellers in all price ranges. He donates a portion of his commission from each sale to help rescue an animal. His phone number and contact information can be found in our episode show notes here on YouTube or whichever podcasting app or platform you're listening to this show on.
Yeah, awesome stuff from our sponsors. Back-to-back segments once again, just like last week. So let's see. This is another interception. We don't need to do that one.
We can if we want to make.
Do we have to do these two plays? Do we have to?
They're your favorite. The fact that they got ran back to back, or like there's back to back moments of mesh in this game, like it's just, man.
and the funny thing is, because like Orlovsky broke this down, like he did a rough breakdown of this on Twitter, and I'm like, okay, there's mesh. And then I watched it later because he obviously has access to the film way sooner than we do.
Yeah.
And then I was like, hold on. He left out an entire play on 3rd down and 10.
Right before.
They ran mesh prior to that 4th down he's talking about. So let's start with this goddamn mesh play. 9 yards, 3rd and 10 in the 3rd quarter. It's a successful mesh play. It's a nice mesh between Diggs and Kincaid for 9 yards. It worked really well on this play. I like it, but it also plays into that 4th down and the miss as well. So I like this, getting especially the mesh portion between Kincaid, who's up top, and Diggs coming across. You see how he kind of attacks this guy and then kind of goes around him, which then this guy is in off and soft coverage. He has to come work over the top. So I like this play, Anthony. There's not much to say on this. I like, the progressions by Josh and the eye usage here and just getting it to Kincaid before his arm gets hit. So 3rd and 10, you get 9 yards. That's great. Right. Then you get 4th and 1, Anthony. The very next play, they run
back to back.
They run mesh again. It's a slightly different variation.
Yeah. Different piece from Shakir was running that post piece, which Allen hit against Tampa Bay that we really like. This time he runs that deep sit over the ball. Ends up, being an option for Allen on the rollout, but little messy here.
Yeah, and you get the motion from Kincaid, and Dan talked about how it didn't really do anything aside from identifying zone versus man, but that's a good thing.
So
right?
It is a good thing, but also talk about that because you had a tweet in response to it or a comment or something like, and I wanted to mention earlier, but I saved it for this because I knew it was going to come up. Talk about because I don't want to steal your thunder. Like there is a difference between using motion to identify coverage versus using motion to create space or leverage for the route itself.
Right. And so on this play, okay, there's no one that travels with Kincaid. Okay. So, and this is the way the Bills primarily use motion.
Yes.
Under Dorsey is to identify man versus zone. Why? Because we talked about the coverage beaters, right? Whether it's 2 versus 3 or man versus zone. So they will use this motion. They do it with Diggs all the time. And just motion that guy across. Hey, no one travels with him. Okay, now we got to expect zone. Well, generally, mesh is run versus man coverage. Now, there is a zone beater built into it more times than not. The sit route over the middle is really that, especially if single high, you're going to get that middle of the field open there for that sit route. But using motion to create an attack space or coverages is a lot different than just motioning to identify, right? You want to use motion to, hey, I know if by motioning Kincaid to that side of the field, I'm going to get X coverage, and I'm going to get X coverage. And so I need my primary. Say I want primary to be Diggs on this play, or Kincaid, like whoever you want to get primarily on 4th and 1 on a money down. Hey, I'm going to move this guy. I'm going to get this coverage. This is going to be the primary read. This is the area this is going to be the defender we're going to attack, the space that we're going to attack, or the leverage we're going to attack. And so the Bills don't do a lot of that. And so this play was just to identify man versus zone. And again, this is one of those plays where like the scheme, obviously the back-to-back call as well, doesn't really do anything when it comes to the route concept. Now Kincaid does come open late, but Josh has already flooded out. And then he's trying to hit it on the run and it goes incomplete. So this one's one of those plays. If we had those columns back up, back-to-back mesh calls and money downs, motion just to identify the coverage, not really anything there. I don't know. To me, this is more of a Dorsey problem. Josh tries extending and he does get Shakir open, but he can't make that throw. So there's just a lot to unpack here, but it's freaking mesh. And I'm sick of breaking this play down. I'm done. I'm done, I tell you.
When it happened during the game, I was like, I'm pretty sure this is mesh for both. And then watching it on the all 22 and seeing them back to back, the first thought in my head was like, oh man, Eric's going to flip out. It was just so funny. So again, this is another one for me where it's like a multitude of things that like work in conjunction with one another from a bad standpoint. Like it's back to back, same concepts. And it's a concept that they don't run well.
No,
but even within that, like this Shakir is wide open.
Yes.
Like he just has to float this into a little teardrop floater. Like, and all they need is 2 yards. So he could even throw it underneath him more and make Shakir come back. Ball. Like, and again, I guess it's not fair to put it all onto Allen, but like this is such a bad throw on the run with so much space. And then the other thing that gets me right here is Shakir starts to clear on that sit over the ball. He's right behind Alex Singleton. He's clearing. I don't know if it's the pressure from the right side that makes Allen evade, but I would have liked to see him just step up because like you said, like Shakir does clear. Like this sit route is open and it's available. And Allen doesn't have to completely evade. Like maybe Browning, who's on Deion Dawkins off the left side, maybe he starts to come through a little bit if Allen steps up and he influences it. But by that time, I thought the ball should have came out. So even though it's like not a successful concept for them and they did run it back to back, I thought there were multiple opportunities. Like, like it's there. Like if he just steps and waits, it's there. And that's a natural part of the progression. That bothered me. And then missing the throw on the run. But again, this is what we've seen this year. Like, the problems kind of compound with one another instead of the scheme and or the players, somebody kind of just bailing the other out. Instead, it's just multiple errors and you get a failed 4th down.
Yeah. And so this is, I believe, the final play of this breakdown. Thanks for hanging out with us, guys. So bottom of the screen, we talked about leverage routes and, different option routes. This is their choice concept to the bottom of the screen. And we talked about, the adjustments that a receiver can make. And so you get that switch release from Shakir and Davis. And we saw this play against the Bucs where Josh, as soon as Davis cleared this defender right here, Josh put it on Davis. And I'm sure the Broncos saw it. And that's why they both jumped that guy. And now you get the wheel up the sideline to Shakir. Really nice play. But this is a play that these two wide receivers are actually reading leverages. Sometimes you're going to see Shakir come out here and this guy's going to be tighter. So what is he going to do? He's going to, maybe break it off into a curl, break it off inside. There are literally, because again, June Jones, I did a breakdown with him for The Athletic a few years ago on some of the routes that Beasley was running. This was one of them that Beasley brought from June Jones and SMU to the Bills, this choice concept. And there are literally like 5 to 6 different routes or adjustments that these guys can make on the fly, both Davis and Shakir. And if you guys are interested in this concept, I broke it down on my personal handle. But I like this play. It's timed really well. Josh and Gabe are on the same page. He pumps and reloads. That's taken away, and he hits Shakir up over the top. Again, that comfort level after those reloads or pump fakes, man. It's Josh Allen's wheelhouse.
Yeah, it's like it just resets him and gets him nice and comfortable, like you said, or almost gets him in rhythm. We broke this down a bunch in like its whole concept last week in the film, showing all the different options that Shakir has, what he's done against the Patriots, what he did against the Bucs. There's even a similar look to this later with the Bills going left to right. and the corner stays outside and over the top. So Shakir like hitches it up instead of continuing upfield. But this is just a great job. Shakir reads the leverage. He sees what's going on. Allen gets that pump on that little hook to Gabe Davis. And it's so pretty to see the outside corner, the underneath defender, and that safety to that side. All three dudes bite. Like they all, one, two, even like Singleton, the linebacker in the middle, goes there. Like you see all the guys go. And Allen has that Ben Roethlisberger aspect to him sometimes when he pumps, where he can like almost go through with the whole motion, but the ball just stays in his hand and then he reloads and fires it. Like that pump gets so many defenders to bite and commit, and then Shakir is wide open. And Eric, this is kind of what we talked about earlier, kind of bring the episode full circle. Like this is when those option routes click. Like that play is not, you can't defend that.
Can't defend that.
No matter what you do. Like if Moreau 23 stays outside and deep, Shakir's going to hook it up. If you're running man coverage, he's going to pop it back inside on the slant like he did against the New England Patriots, or he can beat you in a multitude of ways. He's gotten really comfortable with that concept.
But the thing is, the caveat to this run and shoot type offense that you're talking about, those type of routes right there, is that obviously the quarterback and receivers have to see it. Both receivers have to be on the same page when it comes to reading leverage of the nearest defender. More actually, 2 or 3 defenders, a lot of times they have to see the same thing, or what? The spacing is off.
Yep.
They can run right into each other.
Which we've seen at times on those option routes, especially like the follow concept piece. Yeah.
Oh, don't get me started on that.
I was going to say, I don't want to mention another concept you hate.
Man, I guess I got a catalog going from this year, don't I?
I don't know if you hate mesh or follow. They haven't done follow as much like they did last year with Isaiah McKenzie. For me, follow was worse than mesh. Like,
especially with McKenzie. It was awful.
It was like a 0% success rate. At least with mesh, there's like a 12% success rate. Follow was 0.
Yeah, it was awful. And so, yeah, it's the caveat. They have to be on the same page. But also, like, it's nice to have because Josh, he can hold it and wait for it to develop. Yeah. Right. Because he can make up for the delay in whether it's the receivers, reading the route, or him reading the route, pre to post snap. Mm-hmm. He can wait a little longer than most quarterbacks because of the arm strength. But that takes him out of rhythm in the pocket. So there is that balancing act that we just haven't quite found when it came to the Ken Dorsey offense. And so, to turn the page to Joe Brady, I think it's unfortunate because I do think there are some good things that Ken Dorsey can do as a coordinator. I think he's still a little green when it comes to that. And I do think that if he's given a shot, somewhere else, whether it's in college or as a coordinator somewhere else, I do think that he's going to learn a lot from this stop in Buffalo when it comes to developing a quarterback, but also tailoring an offense to that quarterback as well. Josh is right. A lot of the success that he's had wasn't just because of Brian Dable. It was because of Ken Dorsey being in that QB room with him. And so, as I know a lot of fans were calling for this for many weeks now, if not over a year. There's still a lot of good things that Ken Dorsey did. And a lot of what Josh is going forward will be owed to Ken Dorsey.
Yeah, I think it's a really great way to put it. I like what Pop says here. Like I think Dorsey needed a vacation. He looked stressed out at the end. Yeah, and
Josh
also
does too, man. I don't know. Josh does too.
They look real like war torn and kind of weary in the eyes. I like that you said that though. Like I'm interested to see where Ken Dorsey hooks up with next and what he does. Like I think his offense could be really successful for just a very cerebral process, mechanical minded quarterback. Yeah. I think that's possible. Or just the idea, like you said, like him learning from this and using more of a tailor-made idea. Like he's got, and all the jokes aside, and I don't know if people dislike us for saying it, but he is a really smart football mind. He's got a really high football IQ. He was successful in college as a player. And there's a reason like he was a good part with the Carolina teams and with Josh Allen's development and success here. So wish him the best on whatever he does going forward. And we'll see where he ends up and what he does. And we'll see what Joe Brady does as offensive coordinator for this team. And we'll see what this Buffalo Bills team does, Eric. And as we start to move forward here, turning the page on Ken Dorsey and that offense and going to the Joe Brady era and knowing what the defense did in this game, the whole piece, where's your head at right now? Where's your thought process at when it comes to this Jets game? Or maybe it's everything down the road. Like what's the first thing that's coming to your mind high level when it comes to this team as we turn the page?
Just temper your expectations. All right. This is a difficult situation when you make this kind of move. And as McDermott talked about, it's more about changing the vibe of the offensive room, meeting rooms, and on the field. And you heard him mention confidence. When you talk about these option routes and all these things that have occurred on the field, when you talk about the details and the routes and stuff like that, that we just diagrammed this 2-hour episode, you know, that those type of issues, you know, arise, and it doesn't allow guys to play fast. They aren't confident. And so you heard Josh talk about, hey, we want to make sure everyone nails down their assignment and, you know, tighten things up. Like, they need confidence. They need energy. They need a spark. And so primarily this move is for that. Keep that in mind. Temper your expectations. Don't expect a huge overhaul when it comes to the offense. We're going to see a lot of these concepts, including mesh. And someone in the chat room said, yeah, watch, it's going to be Brady's first call as an OC. And you're probably right. But just present it differently. Please present it differently and get Josh to, again, refine that process for Josh, where his eyes need to be. Whittle that down. Don't leave that up to him. Don't leave the heavy lifting up to Josh and the wide receivers and the Bills offense. Like, scheme more things up. Don't put everything on their plate. And that's what I want to see from Brady. I want to see that process. We're going to be comparing the rest of this year.
Yeah.
Every film room, we're going to be like, oh yeah, well, Dorsey ran it this way versus how Brady ran it. You know, there'll be a little tweaks here and there, but just temper your expectation.
Absolutely. And, you know, we're definitely be comparing that, because if Joe Brady kills it, does he get an opportunity to go somewhere else? If he kind of does, like, do the Bills look to keep him for next year? Do they look to go somewhere else? Sorry here, Carl. Super chat. Thank you very much for being here, Carl. Thank you very much for the super chat. He says, Joe Brady to OC. Who is the QB coach? And he says, get Jordan Palmer. Actually, that's a good question. Is Brady still QB coach, or I saw someone in the chat said Shula? I think Brady's still the QB coach.
I don't think they figured that process out, because I didn't hear them talk about it today. That was still something in the works.
Okay, cool. That's what I thought. I haven't heard anything. I also Googled it just to be safe, and I haven't seen anything. So I think it's
Jordan Palmer is not coming away from his gig.
He's got such a cushy gig. Like, he just works out with QBs in the summer and gets to do whatever the hell he wants. Like,
he's got a good gig.
People say it all the time. Like, and I think it's a tremendous compliment, like, to us, when they're like, man, you guys should be coaches. I don't want to be a coach. The life of a coordinator, or even just a position coach, but let alone the higher up you go, like, it's tremendously demanding and tremendously stressful. But yeah, so we'll see what happens with this team going forward. I love the temporary expectations piece. That's why I'm looking for little tiny things like, how much do the running backs get involved from a, actual route distribution standpoint? Do we see more RPOs? Do we see a better version of mesh? Because Brady likes those shallow crossers and concepts. So just those little tweaks and seeing what we get is where my eyes are going to be on the offensive side of the ball. I'm also excited to see, like, Allen start to finally pull out some Josh Allen throws, and everybody use that as a way to be like, see, told you it was all Dorsey. He sucks. And it's like, no, Allen just made an alien throw that he hasn't made in a while.
He's just letting it all hang out now because their backs against the wall.
That's exactly right. And that's even a fun piece, right? We'll see what this team is going to be. Their backs against the wall. Do they come out swinging? How do they come out swinging? So even though the times are pretty dark right now, it'll be interesting to see what this team does against the Jets team that's had their number and has made life difficult for them, even in their wins the past couple of years. And then it's on to the Eagles and on to the Chiefs and Cowboys and Chargers and that whole gamut that's going to have to be run. And we hope you folks continue to tune in to the film room here with us live every Wednesday, 7 p.m. Eastern. We will continue to run through the entire rest of the season. And then when the Bills season ends, we immediately shift into prospect mode and evaluation off-season mode, Senior Bowl pieces, the draft, the combine, all that stuff. So we are far from finished here in the Cover One Film Room. We appreciate everybody for tuning in live for this episode. If you have not already, please, and thank you before you go, drop a like on this video. It goes a sincerely long way towards helping us track and trend in front of more eyes and ears. If you are watching later, listening later here on YouTube, that's cool too. Please drop a like on this video. If you're listening on one of the podcasting apps or platforms, please rate and review and subscribe. Subscribe to the Cover One Film Room here on YouTube as well, in addition to the Cover One channel, which has you covered literally every single day of the week when it comes to anything and everything Buffalo Bills, various forms of content on the website as well, depending on what your flavor is in terms of analysis and depth. We have you covered here at Cover One. Again, thank you to everybody who joined us live. Thank you very much to Carl and to Justin for the super chats, to all the people who gave us kind words throughout the entire episode. We are greatly appreciative of that and your support in whichever form or fashion it comes in. Tell your family and friends and loved ones about how awesome the show is and how awesome the brand is, whether they're Bills fans or football fans in general. And that'll do it for us here on this show. So for Eric Turner, myself, Anthony Prohaska, this has been another episode of the Cover One Film Room. We hope you and your family and friends and loved ones are all doing well and staying safe. Be kind to one another. Take care of one another. big week for the Bills. Regardless of what happens, we'll see you next Wednesday, 7 p.m. Eastern. And until then, Godspeed. And as always, go Bills.